So I want to have a couple quick hit topics that could be polarizing. One of my favorite Reddits is AITA, which stands for Am I the Asshole? So let's start with me asking you, am I the asshole here? Do you think it is reasonable to expect Scrum Masters or people like them to be interested in the work that is being done by their team?
Do I think it's reasonable for them for you to expect that of Scrum Masters? Is that what I'm asking?
Yes.
Well, you're not an asshole in my book there.
Okay.
Because I wouldn't limit that to only Scrum Masters.
Right.
If you're doing work that you're not interested in my opinion, you're going to do substandard work. You're not going to be retained for very long. It's probably going to cost the company or the nonprofit you're working with or whoever more money and time because you're not engaged. And though I'm not sure if not being engaged in the work is entirely your fault or the Scrum Master's fault in this case. I think there's a balance between what do you connect with and the work and the organization, why you're doing it, and then how much is that supported by leadership?
Right. Okay. Question 2 on the same topic. Do you think it is reasonable for a team and or product owner, product manager to expect their helper, let's not even call it a Scrum Master, let's just say the person who's helping them from a process and organization and, self-management perspective, to have a good grasp of the backlog, the plan, the list of things we're doing? I don't even care what words we use here. Should they? Is it reasonable to expect that?
So I would say, is it reasonable? Yeah. Do I think that it's necessary? Absolutely not.
Okay. Tell me more. What do you mean by not necessary?
I'll flip it for a minute with a story, if that's okay.
Do it.
I taught one of the first PSMA classes, one of PSM advanced classes, up in Toronto with Dave Dame. Dave was my client, and he's another PSD. Great guy. If you don't know who Dave Dame is out there, look him up. He's a lovely human.
100%.
And so Dave invited me up to teach a PSMA. And while we're in there was a section in the class where he just said, what does a product owner need to do to achieve what they're responsible for in Scrum? What are all the kinds of things that they need? And so that they need to have a deep understanding of Scrum. That was on the board. And it was a min-specs activity. So we threw up all this stuff and we were trying to say, do we really need this? And I'm like, I don't think that one belongs. Mm-hmm. And I pulled it off the board. And Dave and I got into a big argument about it because I'm like, well, they have a Scrum Master, right? They need to know Scrum. They need to help out. They have to have the in-depth understanding. Product owners got to know where they play. It really helps them to understand the entirety of the framework. But if there's parts that they don't really get, they don't really understand, like how do the developers manage a sprint backlog? Why does a product owner need to care about that?
Yeah.
Because they're not involved in that work. So in that way, I thought, actually, I don't know if they do. It's not necessary for them to achieve their job of maximizing the value of the product. I'd rather have them talk to customers and experiment and do more value-based things and more validation-based things than have a in-deep depth understanding of Scrum. So similarly, I think for a Scrum Master, it's good for them to understand maybe the context of some things that are on the product backlog. Maybe better for them to understand what are the goals, because they're a part of those goals. That's pretty key. They're not doing any of the work on that product backlog necessarily, right? The thing that they would be doing is helping a product owner make decisions about that and who they should converse with. So they need to understand just enough for those kinds of conversations. And if they don't know much more than that, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Would you agree that we want these people that we're talking about to care? about what
Yeah.
we're doing and the quality we're doing it and who we're doing it for.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So if I phrase it as, is it possible for someone to care about something that they are not interested in? Does your answer change?
Oh, that's a doozy, man.
That's what I'm here to do, man. I'm here to ask doozies, because my point is not that they have to be into it. I'm not saying they should like go out and buy whatever our product is and put it in their home. I'm not saying that they have to know how it works even. I'm not even saying that they have to like be super proud of it, like in the bigger sense of the world. Hopefully they're not ashamed by it, but they don't have to use it as a source of pride. But if they're not interested enough to ask provocative questions, to think about how you might organize it, because as I think you would agree, the way you would organize doing something and the decisions you would make are heavily based on what your goals are, who you're doing it for, and how it's going. Like, you need to be interested to advise people on that, in my opinion.
So let me also run this one with you. Are we really talking about, there are 3 topics here: caring, interest, and understanding?
What I'm really trying to figure out is if I am a shitty product person by expecting something of Scrum Masters or team facilitators, whatever you want to call them, right? We're all creatures of our own past experience, our learned experience. My most enjoyable times when I was in this role that I'm talking about was when I really got interested and bought in and felt a source of pride about what we were doing. And in some cases, I was interested because I knew a lot about it. In some cases, I was interested because I understood we were solving a problem. In many cases, I was only interested because I wanted to help people that I liked, my team, do good stuff, but it required me to know some stuff so that I could ask them things. And yes, I do think that is being interested.
I like the way you put that there, right? That interest drove your caring further, right? And because you cared, you got more interested, and you started putting yourself into it, right? Interest almost turns into an activity and a set of actions, right? That you're engaging, you're putting yourself into it. And I might still not really understand what I'm interested in or care about, but I have, because interest and caring are more emotional,
Mm-hmm.
right? And understanding is a more intellectual kind of thing. So I could see, having an interest in something or even being caring about it and being passionate about getting involved and still not having a clue what it is you're really working with. But hopefully, to me at least, my expectation is that the more interested you are in something as well, the more that you learn about it.
Right.
And the more knowledge that you gain as you're doing that.
And from what I know, and you please correct me if you have a different opinion on this, because you've probably talked to some of these folks more than I have, but I feel that I have heard that folks like Ken Schwaber and many of the creators of modern agility, modern software development, all this stuff, always expected the people involved in this to be engineering-minded people. Maybe not engineers, maybe not all doers, definitely not all equal, but they expected them to care about delivery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there was both an expectation early on, right or wrong, that these were people that were a lot more involved in delivery.
Mm-hmm.
But that also speaks to the history of not delivering and also kind of stomping on the people who delivered and created all the value for you. And so trying to get them the opportunity to reengage. And when your interest is taken out because you don't have any freedom to act or to think or to get involved because you're told what to do, interest just drops.
Right.
Right. So it was that whole, perhaps they were expecting, I think what they were also expecting is that people wanted to be interested in the work. They actually cared for a long time. And when people maybe go into a career, maybe they just want to do it for the money, but they maybe have some kind of interest in what they're doing. And so how do we rekindle that interest by creating that space? So I think you're right. They never had the idea of let's just do stuff for the sake of doing, or let's just create a new process because we want to, but let's do something to re-engage that spark. And that the only way that they could really build a quality product is if they cared about it and they cared about quality and they were interested in figuring out how they can improve it. And the only way that they could build a more valuable product is if they cared to understand what was valuable and they got interested in figuring out how they can go and source that information and talk to customers and, run experiments, things like that. So those did go hand in hand. And I think you're right, with a lot of our founders of agility and even some of the, the people who've come in since then, there's that sense of the people who actually do this well, who really understand and get agility, are the people who care. And if you're not caring, you're probably going to struggle a little bit.
Yeah. So a slight pivot to a new but related topic is, if they don't do that, if these people don't have interest or experience, they're not subject matter experts in the thing that we're doing, well, those people tend to be focusing on the core skills, what used to be called soft skills, and adjacent activities like conflict resolution and self-management and psychological safety and all that. And just to pick on one of those, could you help two engineers on a team navigate conflict without being at least slightly interested in the context of which they're arguing about?
Did it once, and I'll say I kind of cheat in this case too, because I knew the context of what they were working on, but it mattered the least in that moment. In fact, it almost got in the way.
Right.
So I saw two engineers arguing at a whiteboard about the way to implement some JSON structure, right? The way they were going to store and manage data for this web-based application they were building. And they were yelling at each other and trying to make it about I'm better, you're dumb, I'm going to win, right? That kind of thing. And I came over and interjected, and it was because they weren't getting anything done, and they had no proof, right? They had lost interest in solving the problem because they had gained interest in their ego. Right. And so at that case and time, really what I needed to do there was manage the conflict, right? Around, I asked them, which one works? Oh, I don't know, we haven't tried it yet. Then go back to your desks and give it a shot, and let's actually base this conversation in examples and data so that you all can figure out where you're going to go next. But they asked me, they're like, which one's right? And I told them, I don't know. And they said, you taught us this. I'm like, I taught you JSON, but I've not built what you're building. So I don't know which is the correct solution here. So even though, like I said, I had context technically in what they were working on, it really didn't matter. I wasn't involved in building it. So that was their problem to go figure out. The main thing I had to do at that point was to get them to actually separate for a little while, try to work out the idea, and then eventually figure out they were both wrong. Couldn't be one or the other. It had to be a combination.
Funny story about your funny story. I once had a project manager at the company I worked at. I was a full-time employee at the time, and my team was doing a lot of API work back then. And a project manager adjacent to our team escalated my team to leadership for intervention. So me and one other person got called into an office to say, we've gotten some reports and complaints about your team, and we understand there's an actor on your team that is causing a lot of problems and fights that have become vocal enough that other people in other nearby cubicles are concerned. And I go, okay. And me and the other developer, the lead dev, were looking at each other like, who the hell are they talking about? And I go, and who are we talking about? And they're like, Jason. And I go, who? And they're like, apparently you have a team member named Jason that seems to be the source of a lot of arguments. I'm like, and I look at the dev, and we just started laughing because the guy talking to us was technical. And I go, Paul, they're talking about JSON. And we had a very large argument last week because two developers were arguing about the very thing you're describing. And I don't know the first damn thing about, especially back then. I know more now about modern patterns in API development and all this, but I was able to help successfully navigate it. The summary to this story is that woman was told, stay out of other people's business. Like, they're on it. The Scrum Master was aware of it. The product owner was there. The developers were there. Yes, maybe it got a little loud, but this is back in the day when we were all in an office every day, all day. Like, cool. It was literally just a Karen complaining about a slightly loud discussion revolving around this jerk named Json. Yeah. So, awesome. And that actually makes my point for me or helps make my point is, I don't think you have to know everything about the topic at hand. But even back then, when I was working with people doing work that I didn't understand at all and could not do if I wanted to, I had to ask some questions about why were they upset? What are you arguing about? Like, can you show me a document about your idea for this and their idea for this and help me understand where your conflict is? Now, are there coaches out there? Are there therapists and social workers that can navigate complex conflict with zero context or caring about the topic? Sure, there are. Do I also think that there's a reason that to be a marriage therapist, you have to have some continuing education and certifications and pedigrees and degrees? Yes. Do I think to be a guardian ad litem for a child, you have to go through a lot of additional training and education to that? Yeah. And if you didn't care about children and your job was to act on the best interest of a child, I would think you need to care a little bit or you're going to be very bad at that job.
I also think, towards our context, for people who are working on products in companies and organizations, if they don't care about the product that they're trying to build and the customer that they're trying to serve, even if they're really good at all the other parts, they'll eventually just pull themselves away. Right? They'll get disinterested. They'll do worse work because they don't care. That has shown up for me a few times. Right? As a longtime consultant, I'm coming into other companies' problems and customer bases and products. So the one thing that I try to do is actually understand what it is that the problem that they're trying to solve, and care about their problem as much as they do, maybe more.
Yeah.
Right? So that I can try to advocate for that problem and other ways to go and solve that problem that maybe they haven't thought about. Because I too want that success and I care about their customer. I care about their success.
Yeah.
But there have been times where I haven't. I can just tell them, like, I don't know, you're all just kind of doing stuff here and going through the motions, and I just don't care. And those are the ones that I've pulled away from. Because I'm like, if I don't care, I'm not going to do good work. I don't want to be here charging you and whatever and building up a bad reputation and having you pay for it along the way.
Right.
Because I'm tuned out.
Well, over the years on this show, something we've talked a lot about is the refrain I hear from people in these jobs saying, oh, I've tried everything and this team just doesn't get it. Nothing's working. I'm going to go work with a different team. I'm going to go to a different department, or I'm going to go to a different company. There are times where that is true. But I think what is more common is the way you're trying to help is not what that group of people needed. And imagine if you're trying to help people and you're like, look, I'm an expert and what I love doing is facilitation, conflict resolution, and psychological safety. Maybe that team needs an organized technical person. Maybe they need to rubber duck a problem with a third person there to help mediate a technical decision. That doesn't mean they don't get it. It means you need to learn new skills so that they do need. You need to try some different. I mean, there's a lot of different things, but just saying they don't get it, they're the problem, I've tried everything I know how to do, might just mean you don't know how to do what they need.
Yeah. And that's okay. Maybe it's somebody else that they need help from.
Correct. Exactly.
Because you can't learn that or don't want to learn that or whatever. And that's fine. I think that's absolutely fine. We used to make that a strategy at a former consultancy I worked at, where we knew we in a different consultants and coaches had different strengths and different ways of engaging with people. And sometimes we'd be like, okay, well, maybe Rob isn't working out here that well. Let's bring in Rich because he's different and he's got a different approach and a different style. Maybe that'll connect a little bit more. Right. It's kind of helping. What we actually found out is Andy is the one that we want instead. Right. And so we use that to learn. And we would often reflect on that ourselves too. Like, what could I be doing differently in the future? Maybe I can get better at that. Maybe I'm not going to be as good as Andy, but I can at least, understand and try to do a little bit more. But I think for the people that are not consultants, you're actually working in this job, you're working with a team and a company full time, you want to move to a different department. The better thing to say is instead of, like you said, oh, they don't get it. It's like, what am I doing? Right? Maybe I'm not right for them and that's okay. And also maybe in a way, what's going on in this situation is not right for you.
Yeah.
Right. Cause it could be like mentally damaging.
And that's been
stay in that situation.
That's been my point through this whole experience that I'm kind of talking around is the people involved are not bad. Different teams need different types of folks, and one of the things I think I'm very good at is trying to help a company match the type of person that they have with the type of people that need those skills, and vice versa, and to just sit everybody down and say, you're not bad. You're great at a lot of things, but this team needs something else right now. Would you like to be able to do that? Do you want to learn that? Or is it better to put you over here and bring, this other person over here? So I have another one that I saw, and I will try and not vent about the overall nature of social media and LinkedIn, but I hate the fact that most of what I see on LinkedIn is people bad-mouthing something. Like, something's dead, something's terrible, something's whatever. Like, I'm not, like they have an ideological thing. So the one that I want to ask you about is someone said a phrase that needs to die in the modern workplace and on social media is the way of working.
The phrase, the way of working?
Yes.
Needs to go away, needs to die.
And as soon as I read it, I knew what they meant, because this is a phrase that I don't ever remember hearing 3 years ago, and now I hear it 10 times a day. Now, let me add a little context, because your face is telling me you need a little context. So, before I wasn't going to reply. I don't really mix it up and get on my soapbox too much online. But somebody did it for me, because they said, well, if you don't like those words, how would you describe the way that we choose to work as a department or a team? And the person said, why don't we just call it that? The stuff we do and the way we do work. And my face was, really? It was Tim Robinson. Like, you sure about that? Like, I get it. It's corporate jargon. It's corporate speak. But what would be better? Like, Rich, you and I work with Sundar and Ryan, and we have evolved into a way of communicating, a way of working. It's not super structured, but if somebody said, can you tell me about your process that the four of you follow? I'd be like, yeah, let me describe our way of working. What are your thoughts on this? Is this a harmful phrase? Is it bad jargon? Is it corporate speak?
I'm really just confused how somebody could say the way of work, the way we work, and the way we do our work is really different. Like,
right?
Come on,
right?
No,
right.
I'm glad you started giving me a little bit more context, because like every time I hear like the way we work or the way of work, I start thinking of attached to what? The way that product fields works. Oh, okay. That's a very specific way of work. The way of work, this is the way of work in the age of AI. Well, that's pretty broad. Get me a little bit narrower, or just like the way we work here at this company. Okay. But is that across everybody? Or is that just in certain departments? Right. I get curious with that question to look for the additional qualifiers to really understand like what you mean something when you say the way we work here. Right. And you can tell me all about it, but another person who works in the company with you, but maybe in a different department, could describe the way we work totally differently. Yeah. And they might not know that.
And all of my clients, and I have 4 paying clients right now, and every one of them, either uses the phrase, the way of working. And the context is it might show up in some yearly goals to say, we want to improve our way of working. We want to evolve and extend our way of working to include AI methods. Recently, last week, a team or a person came in and said, I want you to help my teams become more agile in their way of working. The way that my clients use this phrase is it is a mishmash of team working agreements, organizational norms, that company's corporate jargon, the organizational impediments that people are feeling right now, the way that decisions are made, the way that changes are approved, the way that things get done. Now, that doesn't exactly roll off your tongue. So a lot of companies need a way to summarize all of those things, and they say we want to improve, evolve, simplify, clarify our way of working. I don't have a problem with it, and I thought it was really weird. Of all the things out there that I could totally support being annoyed by, this didn't feel like a problem to me.
It was a great attempt at stirring shit up and marketing something, I guess. I mean, it got you involved, but
yeah.
But yeah, I agree. It was otherwise a fairly empty kind of thing. There was like, why would they need to get so riled up about it? I don't know.
You want one more slightly salty thing, or do you have something you want to ask?
Well, I'm curious, like what else has gotten you riled up lately that you realize, like, do I really need to be riled up about this?
The thing that has me the most riled up, to use your term, is what should I do as an individual when I don't feel that the people I am there to serve have any likelihood of success? And the most common thing that gets me riled up is when people create a boulder at the front of a process or a front of a way of working and a boulder at the end, and they are refusing to chip away at either of them. I greatly struggle in that model because I start to pretty quickly suffer from what I refer to as caregiver fatigue, which is, it's a psychological thing. If we feel like we can't help for a long time in a row, it destroys our mental health. It leads to all types of things, burnout. It's from the world of medicine, but I'm feeling that right now because I like the people I work with. They're doing important things. They are often being set up in a system where no matter what we do, what any one of us does or what some of us do together is going to make a difference. That's what has me riled up right now.
It's maybe a worthwhile thing to be riled up about, Jim. Like,
it is.
I can think of every time you're arguing with somebody on the internet. It's like, dude, that makes me wonder if, do I really need it? Like, what's the purpose of my engagement with this? I've had a few of those recently. I'm just like, I'm very passionate about whatever this conversation is, but I don't know why. And am I really, do I care if this person changes their mind or not? Right. And how do I show up in that moment too? Do I start throwing out a bunch of facts? Do I get curious about what they're doing? Do I just start like making demands? Right. There could be lots of different ways to go and engage with something like that. And at those points of time, I'm like, is this really the right approach? Right. And like try to step back to say, yeah, maybe not. And so occasionally those things are, other concepts like, the being angry about the term, the way of work. Something like that might roll around in my head as I'm walking my dog. And I'm like, oh, maybe I'll even like craft an idea for a post or a session here, right? A topic that we can talk about. And usually by the end of the walk, I'm like, nah, that's not the thing. Maybe something else comes up that I find out is actually important. And I wanted to explore that further. But usually whatever that thing was, I'm like, yeah, I can let that go. That was just me being overly concerned about something that won't matter much. At least in your case, I think it kind of matters.
I know, like, I wish I could dial back the clock and tell like 2016 me, hey man, it gets way worse. Like, as bad as this feels, you're still making a difference. Because I'll give you an example of this concept that has me riled up right now. So I'm helping a team, and essentially I'll dumb this way down so that it appeals to the masses. Is they have to look at this screen and read stuff all the time, multiple times a day, which are alerts and things that they could have to deal with and things that are going on outside of their company that they have to be aware of. And then they have to think about those things and put all of them or some of them in this other tool. And the way they're doing that right now is by paying human beings to do that work in offshore type situations. So they're not very expensive, but they're humans, which means they get sick. They take time off. They have shifts. They get stuck in traffic. They make mistakes. So through working with other people, I said, what if we integrated those two things so that we could eliminate the human aspect of that, and that we took the things over here and we put them over where we need them, all automatically, all the time, never fail unless, we do it poorly. And then we can still disposition them the way that we need to now. But we have a lot more options then. Everyone's like, that's such a great idea. Is that possible? We research it. Yep, there's an integrator. It's free. This is a very supported pattern. Like, we don't have to invent a novel solution. Both sides of that equation said, we would love it if you would do this. Okay. Nothing but green flags. It gets to the 11th hour. It is about to go to global production after months of work. Not a lot of work. We're not building this, Notre Dame here, but it takes a lot of work in big companies to get anything done. Yeah. The entire thing was canceled. Didn't bother me. I've had that happen many, many times in my career. I no longer get too angry when something gets canceled. The why pissed me off more than I remember being pissed off in the last 2 years about something like this. Because by doing that, it's going to create a ticket. And it's going to create a ticket in the ticketing system, and somebody's little chart is going to go up. Now, bear in mind, it's going up now, but it's just going up slowly and in a different system where we don't want it, where it's causing problems. And even though there's so many options here, like, could you remove it from those metrics? Could you create a different non-ticket? Any of those are good answers. No. We are not willing to consider anything that will make this number go up. Okay, I got curious again, Rich. So what do we tell our coachees? Don't get angry, get curious. Interesting, letting the metrics lead this decision. What is the concern that you have with that number going up? Well, we're going to get asked about it. Okay. There's a great answer here. This is a great story. Yeah, but we don't want to because the person that does that doesn't like this person on the other side of the ocean. And then there's already some bad feelings there. So we're not going to create anything that would make this needle move. And I said, even if that needle is a positive thing, because really what we're doing is we are taking a reactive, human error prone model and making it an automated, non-error prone, proactive model. So I have to look both sides of this equation in the eye and say, I'm sorry you wasted all this time and effort trying to do the right thing for the right reasons for the right people. And the reason we are told no is because a line on a graph that people probably don't even look at could move in the right direction, by the way.
Sure. And I hear somebody's got some bad blood and they're not willing to address it.
Yes.
Right. We had a spat a while ago. I'm never going to talk to this person again, or I'll do everything I can to not interfere or not make them angry or whatever.
Why am I so upset about this? Because people are like, see, it's not reflecting on me personally, but it is completely taken the momentum away from people who were working differently, talking to other stakeholders, trying to solve a real business problem using modern technology. And the reason they were told no is we don't want to have to deal with another human being about this. And so you want another example, a much shorter example? I found a backlog item that says, as the conference room on floor L4, I want to have more appealing mini blinds.
What?
Someone sent it to me. Another coach sent it to me and said, can you believe this? And I go, I'm like, good one. Like, I honestly, Rich, thought they were joking. Because it wasn't
near April 1st, anything like that?
No. It was a well-formatted item. It had acceptance criteria. It had stakeholders listed. Like, effort had went into framing up something from the point of view of a conference room where the value being added was nicer looking mini blinds.
Because the conference room cares so much.
So I took this issue to the department head and I said, we need to have a talk about this because this is not the intent of what we're trying to do here with the teams and the tools and the work and all that. And again, I was told, go away, little boy. We need to show what we're doing, and that's what we're being told to do. So that's what you're going to see more of on our backlog. So not only did they not want to have the conversation, but they were saying, we're going to do this for the exact same reason as the previous story, the optics of a needle going in a better direction that they wanted to tell the story about.
These sound even worse than saying we need to see your velocity 10% higher.
Right. So yeah, if you're out there thinking like your company doesn't get it because they're asking you to work 10% faster in 26 and 25, just think it could be worse. That 10% could come at carpet with new carpet or
carpet
mini blinds.
As the carpet, I want less mud on me in the winter so that I look and feel better.
Yeah.
The people that are trying to walk around barefoot. Like, wait, what?
You don't get riled up as much as I do. You often are talking me off the ledge. Is there anything that's gotten your hackles up recently?
Yeah, I told you about one. I got aggravated recently by a decision about where information gets posted.
Oh, yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So for the listeners, there was, I don't know, if you subscribe to a newsletter, you get the newsletter, it comes in. Maybe there's also a web viewable component of it, right? Like, oh, look at this on the web. That's cool. I'll go way back to some tools maybe some of you were using, but also were very old in this way. Google Groups, where I use it for email all the time. It had its roots in like a forum-based system. Like you could always click a link and go back to the thing. Or if you get GitHub notifications via email, same kind of thing, right? So I saw the newsletter was brought only online recently, and that was odd to me. I don't know what changed that helped that there. The first thing I did was I went online, I printed it, and I emailed it back to myself because that's where I'm going to look for it, right? That's where I'm going to search for this thing. But then I found out that the online newsletters weren't being preserved. It's like 2 pages of text max. There's not a lot of information here. Why do they need to go away? When so much else is out there. And getting to them was hard. They went to a whole new place when there was one location to access all of the individual things. So like an extra click, I guess. And it riled me up probably way more than it should have. Right? But I was just like, why was this decision made? Who made the decision? Why did you make it? What did you learn from that? Who asked for it? Where did it come from? What did you learn by removing this feature that other people apparently use? Did you find out who was actually using it? Right? Those kinds of things. And I realized in the moment I was being like very direct and animated about my response here, and probably more so than I needed to be. And so apologies to that person. And they did some really good things in response and like trying to get back the old data and stuff. And I really appreciate that. I share that with them too. But it was just like, I don't know, it matters to me right now. As like we broke a process that we probably didn't need to alter.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why, right? And it was an experiment that maybe is helping people, but I couldn't even hear what the success criteria would have been. And so I think in that kind of way, with what we teach people, like, great, run experiments. That's fine. But why? How will you know they work? When would you find out it's good to go back to what you were doing, right? These kinds of things versus just, we're just going to experiment because, I don't know, somebody said something, we might as well try it. I don't like those kind of things. So I think it pulled at that core piece of seeing that a lot of times. And like I said, it was a minor thing. Like, I really didn't need to get riled up about it. I didn't need to get riled up about it in the way that I did.
Yeah.
But there I was. And I think I realized that, quick enough that I'm like, yeah, let me just back away from this too. Right? I can find something more important to care about.
Yeah. And I know the situation you're talking about, and I think you're very, very good at challenging things respectfully, trying to increase transparency of things, making your voice heard and all that. I am very hard to find an example where I think you kind of crossed the line into being argumentative or unprofessional or anything. But you and I this week were on another call together, and there was another interaction there that I messaged you about after, because it hit me wrong. And it could have been the amount of caffeine I had. It could have been just my mood or whatever. But one thing I know about myself is I'm often the person challenging things. I'm often the person asking, like, what could go wrong? What evidence do you have to support that? What makes you believe that? But I also would like to think that I don't always do that, and I don't do it in a very rapid fire it's not my default position, right? Some other folks, it seems to me that that's all they do. And that tends to rub me the wrong way, because I don't mind people challenging. I also have been guilty of heaping on, or like, yeah, and that, or plus wanting something that when that's not useful or necessary or helpful or anything. Yep. I don't know. Like, I don't even have an opinion on it. I don't have a question behind this except to say, you balance me out that day, because you're like, no, it's good. Challenging evidence and asking transparent questions is good. And I don't know.
On that whole plus one thing, I saw something like that recently too. There was somebody who went, or a couple people who were plus oneing an issue that was personal to them. I'm like, okay, like, great. You brought up this personal issue and you're asking for a change. No suggestion on what the change could be. Nothing that would remediate what would make it better.
Right.
Like, how would we know where to go and do? And that frustrated me, but I'm like, this is not my battle.
Yeah.
Because I'll figure that out. But I maybe need to bring that concept. It's like, well, cool, then propose something. And it's that proposal of something that that really got to me today. And geez, I really wish I could see where it went. So there's a tool that I use and like an open source language that I really appreciate for capturing recipes. It's called Cooklang. So if anyone's a cook out there, wants to preserve the recipes, etc., I highly recommend taking a look at Cooklang. I think it's cooklang.org or github.com/cooklang. And you write out a recipe in a way that a computer can read it and like pull out the ingredients list and help you with shopping and that kind of thing, and just make it more presentable. And there's lots of different parsers and, cool, great stuff. Even AI tools. Take a picture of your grandma's recipe card and get it formatted here so you can now pull it up on a web page. Like, love it. And somebody came in here that was new to the Cooklang Discord server that was really angry about something, right? They were overly frustrated with they couldn't get this config file to read. And they said the documentation's kind of all over the place. I put it in all these places. It's getting ignored. Their next message, a whole 9 minutes later, was, never mind, I figured it out. And it works if this file is in this specific place. Right. And their response was not sure why the documentation on the most base level functionality is so painfully incomplete. I was like, wow. Okay, that's not just informative, right? That's an attack in my view, right?
Yeah.
And thankfully, somebody replied back just as I'm amazed that the work produced by people with their free time, provided for free and with no ads, manages to attract whiners. And it's like, okay, sure, yes, that isn't a fair comment. Didn't help anything yet,
right?
And I really appreciate what the manager, the person who created this whole product, this whole thing, and the maintainer of CookLang project, did in response. They just said, hey, if you've got a moment, it's open source. You can save other people from having the same struggle. Feel free to update the docs. Here is the repository. Go do it.
Nah, I just want to complain.
Yeah, right. Just want to complain. So that was, I had a lot of respect. I mean, I already loved the tool and the project as it is, but I just think that was so cool for this person to be like, you can do something here.
Well, right? you shared that tool with me, and I turned around and shared it to one of my foodie developer friends, and he got visibly excited. So I hope he's not the person that went and just posted that comment, but he got real excited about CookLang. Speaking of cooking, I do have to go because I can hear I can smell my food in the other room. But I want to leave you with 2 teasers for our next chat. I've begun using the phrase instead of product manager, product owner, problem solver, problem manager. And I've also been using Clayton Christensen's framework for jobs to be done around products. You hire a product to do a job for you. What is the job you're hiring a tool to do? And I think both of these ideas, problem manager and you're hiring a tool, are more and more important in 2026 because the lifespan of products is becoming extremely short now. There's never been one way of doing something, but now with the ability for dummies like me to create digital, high complexity digital products without knowing how to write code, the tool you hire today may not be the tool you use 3 months from now or definitely 3 years from now. So we need to if we can start to shift our mindset from I'm solving problems and making things better or, whatever, it will help reduce the connection we have to fall in love with a specific tool or product. And I've always been the type of person who tells people, don't fall in love with the solution, fall in love with the problem. Then when the tool changes or the budget's canceled or you go use a different, product, you won't be as upset about it. That's what I want to talk about next time.
You immediately had my mind going to whether you use Scrum or not, adaptive solutions for complex problems, right? Yep. And it's always been sitting in front of us. Again, you use Scrum, it's there. That's your job. And if not, hey, it's still a really good consideration. So I look forward.
Yeah, the adaptive part of that is awesome. I totally agree. Thanks for the chat, Rich.
You bet. We'll look forward to seeing you all next time.